Well, all right. Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Thanks for jumping in for today's episode on personal evolution. Did you want to maybe start off by telling us a bit more about yourself, your role, and what you're doing?
So I teach women to step back into the feminine energy, to surrender into it. So I work a lot with women in the womb space, bringing them back to not necessarily traditional roles, but noticing that when they actually step into their more feminine energy, the traditional roles find them once again. So it's like the reasons why we do things as women, and all the studies I've done and all the clients I've worked with, it's shown me that when a woman is leading with her masculine energy, there tends to be sickness in the body, especially in the womb space. She has issues with her thyroid and with her menstrual cycles. And when we shift women back into the feminine energy and she surrenders to that, her body starts to show her that she's well and she's thriving. So a lot of what I've believed for myself and worked on in myself, I've then been able to work with clients in that same vicinity and then seen the evidence in them. So I'm really just bringing women back into the feminine.
Back into the feminine.
Back into the feminine.
And so you have a pretty distinct definition on feminine and masculine that you'd say was against current mainstream norms in the social media sphere.
Yes.
Right. And so you had a not YouTube video, but a TikTok video, a reel on Instagram that went viral. And were you doing this work prior to that? Is that you were doing this work prior to that?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And so can you maybe take us through the actual video itself and what you were speaking about, and maybe start there.
Yeah. Well, I never expected it to go viral for a start.
I
put it out and just thought, this is my opinion, and people either loved it or they absolutely hated it, and that's what it's on 12 million views now.
That's insane.
It's crazy. So what I was explaining was that when a woman is looking for a relationship with a man, when she's looking for that partnership, in order for her to give her heart to him, she has to feel safe in her communication. So she needs to know, can I cry? Is he going to be there? Or is he going to push me away? Can I tell him how I feel? Is he going to be too sensitive to hear me because he's too in his feminine? Or is he going to be so structured in his masculine that he can't actually sit with me and listen? So a woman, she kind of works through her connection to her communication as to whether that man is right for her. Because if a woman meets a man and she can't tell him how she feels, or he shuts her down, she won't feel safe. And then she can't rest in her feminine energy when she's around him. So that was how women, I noticed, work, because their thyroid, their voice, that all of this area here is connected to the womb. So by me expressing to my partner how I feel, I'm also working through the womb as well. So if I can't speak, my womb's going to shut down, and then my feminine energy shuts down. So that's what women look for when they're in their feminine. And then with a man, men thrive on appreciation. If a man feels appreciated, because men are such givers and they're fixers. You give men love a problem. You give them a problem, they'll solve it, and they feel content. Am I right?
Yeah, right. It's actually something in my previous relationship, which is a big thing. That every time there was an issue or something come up, it's like my instinct is just go help. And sometimes they just want to be heard. And so I was like, okay, I need to distinguish whether or not I need to sit and listen in this moment and they communicate, have their feelings feel heard, or is this a moment for me to step into my masculine and actually help out? And so there's a different energy with both those takes. And so I only became aware of that in my previous one. But we're here now, right? So
every relationship is a lesson. 100%. You learn something in every relationship.
So I understand what you're saying there.
So men need that appreciation. So if he's giving something to a woman or trying to fix something for a woman, if she's sort of like, oh yeah, thanks, whatever, doesn't give him any praise or appreciation, he doesn't naturally open his heart to her. He doesn't want to protect her. He doesn't want to guide her. He doesn't want to lead for her because he doesn't feel appreciated. So the video was me saying that women look for their partner through their expression and men look for their partner through appreciation, because she needs to feel seen in order to expand who she is, and he needs to be appreciated.
Right.
So that video got a lot of love and a lot of hate.
I can imagine. We have pretty similar views on this, but I wanted to kind of dive into this a bit more and maybe start with defining what you mean by, one, the masculine role, and two, the feminine role. And then let's go with what you believe masculine role is, which I think you made clear in feminine, but what you think the normal society or the mainstream, I guess, sphere of influence online thinks. So because you have a conflicting point of view here, what are you actually conflicting? What are you actually opposing against? What would be the opposite end of that?
Well, I do believe that we all need masculine energy and we all need feminine. We need both. But I believe that, and this is where it gets controversial and people get offended, if you're born into a woman's body, I believe you lead with your female energy. If you're born in a man's body, you lead with your masculine energy. So that's where the mainstream gets upset with me, because I'm bringing it back to biological, you know, the body.
Yeah.
So to me, I teach Tantra along with what I do. So I look at the body and how energy moves in the body. So for men, if you look at the men in the physical anatomy of a man, he's all about penetration and there's a straight line, right? 100%. So when he's aroused, there's the line. That literally shows what his energy is about. Whereas we have a womb, so we have an empty space.
Yeah. So it's like cyclical, it's curvature. Yeah. So it's curved lines. For me, females are curved lines, even in terms of what am I naturally, I guess, appealing to is the curvature in a woman. And in female perspective, it would be like, okay, does he have like broad shoulders? Does he have a straight jawline? Like these are things that make them more attractive. Yeah. So we can kind of continue from there. Yeah. Well,
that's again proof of the body is showing you how your energy works. Men are all straight lines, more linear jawline, shoulders. So it's those straight lines, whereas women are curvy and more fleshy and should be.
You think there's a change in terms of definitions of masculine and feminine right now in society? And so it's conflated a little bit. And do you think, like, because that's something I've wondered, is it the food? Is it just the change in, like the top, like, food that we eat, the air, the pollution, things that are changing our actual hormones, we're out of sync, even females out of sync with their natural moon calendar and their cycles, right? So there's all these effects happening all around us. And whether or not that's now a natural thing that we need to adjust to is one part that we can look at. Like, do we have to now change the role of masculine and feminine to include that within each individual, or do we have to find our way back to these kind of not strict but at least more borderline and categorized masculine and feminine roles as you're speaking about?
Well, I think that the reason people don't want to go to the traditional roles is because they feel that creates slavery, when actually it creates freedom, because there's freedom in knowing who you are.
There is,
If you don't know who you are, you'll never follow your Dharma because you're too busy trying to figure out who you are. It's very distracting. Yeah. So I think that there's a combination of why we've ended up this way. And I think it's a combination of everything. Mainly, I think it's trauma-based. When we don't get the basic feeling of love for who we are from outside of ourselves, we tend to step out of our body. We can't own the body that we're in. I think when you eat certain foods and you clog up the body with toxins, that again stops you from connecting to the body, because now there's so many toxins in the body, you don't even want to be in it. And again, we elevate. So we kind of fragment off. Yeah. So I definitely think it's a combination, but I also think that there is, to a degree, an agenda higher than us, which I don't necessarily buy into in the sense that person is in charge, because only I'm in charge of me. But I do think if we look at societal structures, most people are powerless. Yeah. So they will...
What do you mean by that? Define that.
Well, powerless in the sense that most people don't have any money. Most people aren't doing the job that they want to do. They're just surviving. They're not in the relationships that help them thrive. They're in relationships where they're constantly being triggered and thinking it's normal, or constantly learning something, or constantly having to fix something. So all these are distractions.
We are powerless, or do you think that we've given our power away? Because it's two different things. It's been taken away from us, or do you believe that we have given away our power in terms of to have a more modern, mundane, safe and secure lifestyle? Because that's kind of what I think in terms of where we are, in particular in Australia and Sydney. Yeah.
I think that we've given our power away. Yeah. I think we think it feels nicer to think it's been taken, because then we don't have to take responsibility. It's like we can blame the government, we can blame the elite, we can blame the Illuminati or whatever. But in actuality, I always say it's not the matrix, it's matrix thinking. Yeah. You're in control of that.
Well, it depends on who you think you are, right, as well. Like, do I think I'm a part of the government? Do I think I'm a part of all these things, or do I feel separate, right? And if I think I'm a part of the government, I think I'm a part of society, then actually everything I do and everything the government does is some extension of me as well. And so I have a part to play within that too. And I do believe that we are actually being in, a very masculine dominant frequency, let's say, or energy over the last 100 years, or possibly even more, right? So I do believe that you get the positive and negative of that as well. So there'll be times where we feel safe and secure, but there's going to be times that as a society we feel like we're oppressed, which would be the opposite energy of the masculine, right? So the masculine, as you say, in its full form, offers protection, offers security to a woman, but also in a toxic way, it can make her feel oppressed. If it's too tyrannical, if it's too much security, too much safety, I want you to dress this way for me. I want you to be this form for me. I want you to do this thing, right? So it feels like oppression. And I think a lot of people get confused behind like this masculine energy because there are both sides of that. As a man, I want to offer security and safety, but I think as a true man, I want to offer security and safety so that she can freely express herself and her individuality within my container, right? As opposed to, I built this container and now you do what I say. And there's a very distinct difference with that, right? So it doesn't mean that men shouldn't serve women and be of service to women and provide a container and destroy the whole container in general. It just means that we need to set parameters and rules within this container as well. But also, it's not one-sided. I feel like women also provide a container, like you said, for a man to express himself, to be emotional, to show parts of himself that he couldn't show to other parts of the world, because he's not that he's not allowed to. It's just it's not very modern or I guess accepted right now. Like I'm not allowed, but it's weird of me to go out, cry, and share my emotions with the entire world and everything like that. Although I think that it's changing. It's nice to have that safe space with a woman to express that part of myself too. And there's something about that makes it feel very unique and special. And so, that's kind of where I'm at with that. And so, did you have any more thoughts?
That's kind of why I'm all about monogamy, is so you can create that container with someone. And then within that container, you can build something together. When you let other things in and the container's leaking, that's when it's not a very strong container.
Yeah.
So monogamy, I think, is very powerful, which is why I think it's being taken away. Because again, it leads to powerlessness, in my view. Yeah, no,
I see. Again, I agree with you. I also, as we recently spoke about this earlier, I was like, well, yeah, it's kind of difficult because some people might feel safer in environments where they have multiple partners or access to multiple people for different parts of themselves, because maybe they feel like not one single person can offer them that secure and safety. And then we also spoke about maybe it's a lack of security in myself that makes me feel like I want one single person to to be with, right? So there's different ways of looking at this, and I think that's the beauty of the world, is how we have like these different ways to exist and to feel like we fit into society. Because if there was one strict way to be, then there will be a clear distinction between people that don't fit in, that are outcasts, and people that do fit in. And that causes a divide. And I feel like we're currently in that divide, that there is one right way to do something and one wrong way to do something. However, in saying that, I think there's layers to this. There is biological stuff, which I agree. I'm like, okay, biologically, I'm a man. Biologically, you're a female. And so that comes with certain behavioral acts, changes, ways of thinking, like your perception. So your perception of time is different, right? Because you have a body clock telling you, like, I want to have a child. You hit a certain age, and that becomes the thing. You get baby fever, whatever it's called. And so there's this clock, right? And so a woman needs to find a man to help raise the child. And in the man, he's not so strict with time, I'd say, like in terms of biological time. But what I would say, and what I think a lot of people forget about, is like, as a man, I'm actually thinking a lot about my future children and my wife. And so I am not struck for time because I can find someone younger. I do have an escape route, which is like a blessing. But at the same time, I have this desire to, build something of value to the world and contribute back to society, so that I can make, not for money's sake, right, but I can provide security and safety, one, to my community around me, two, for my wife, and three, for my children, but also my friends and family as well. And so there is this devotion of service to something greater than me that I will then, people hopefully find valuable and give you value for that, and so that you can provide. And
appreciation.
Yes, you're right. 110%. You're right. And so that's kind of, I see the masculine role, and I feel like we're kind of treading away from that. And so people don't want to do that. They don't want to provide for even provide something valuable, right? It's just like, it's a quick and easy route to getting money. You want to have, women that don't necessarily support your dreams and values. You don't have necessarily dreams and values, and nor do you want a woman to actually, you just want someone to do some things for you. So where do you think the mainstream the mainstream lies at the moment with this? Like, what do you think what do you see the mainstream male masculine, and what do you see the mainstream female looking for? What are they?
Well, the mainstream, a lot of them, the men, I suppose, they're leaning more towards that feminine. I mean, in numerology in general, we're at a feminine time because we're in the 2000s. So 2 is feminine, 1 is masculine.
Right.
So the whole world is shifting more to feminine. Then I'm sure it will find its balance somewhere. But a lot of men are not necessarily looking for monogamy as much these days, and not necessarily men my age because we were raised in a different way. Yep. It's more the younger men. Some of them aren't looking for that as much, but I do know that deep down there is a craving to be seen and loved. Having these conversations with young men, it's like, well, we're just free and we want to do this and we want to do that. But if you really sit down with them and have a conversation, they really want to be seen. But it's trendy to not be monogamous.
I think it is, but also with men, young men, because I was running men's circles every second Sunday for all of last year. And, beautiful guys, like, some a lot younger, like they were 19, 20, 21, and they're really thinking about this stuff. You don't tend to think about this, but there are a lot of men out there who are seeking answers for this sort of stuff. And I will say the pressure that I think that men face right now is that they need to conform to the 9 to 5, needs to get a white collar job. And this isn't just from the masculine voice, it's also from the feminine voice. And what I mean by that is like their dad and their mum, their father and mother, are imposing certain ways of behavior and how to act in the world. Like, go get this job. It'll be good for you so you can provide for your wife and your kids. And I think there's value in that for sure. But in saying that, it's this never-ending cycle, because then if I do what I don't love to provide for my family and kids, I become bitter and resentful, right? And I probably don't treat them well, and I don't provide a safe container for them to feel safe in, which is my role as a man to do, right? And so that causes this disruption and causes maybe the child to rebel against me because he wants to overthrow me, because he thinks or she thinks that there's a better way to run this family, a better way to run society. So if you think of society as like this fractal thing, there's the world, there's the country, there's the state, there's the city, there's the local community, then there's your family. And so these mirror each other in terms of structure. And so you get to play and practice how you would act in a certain structure within your home. And that's why I think like you can learn a lot within your household as well. And so, does my father oppress me? Yes or no? Does the state oppress me? Yes or no? And so how you react at home can be a mirror image of how you act in terms of the greater contribution to the state. So I think that matters quite a bit, right? Providing that safe place for your children. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Because at the moment, what we're seeing loads of is that because there's not as many men in the home, there's a lot of single mothers.
There are.
So those children don't have the discipline of the masculine energy.
No.
So
I think it's important.
We do have a quite a big generation of narcissism coming up.
And this isn't to say, right? I don't think that females can't raise children on their own. And I don't think that males can raise children on their own. But the stats do say that together, both having masculine and feminine energy, there's a greater chance and possibility of them having a healthier lifestyle. Doesn't mean you can't. You can definitely put in the effort no matter what. It's like the odds can always be stacked against you, but you could be the outlier. You never tied to the stats. They're just there as a guideline, right? But back to that point with men, right? I feel like they're torn between, and this is where I think the feminine is creeping in. It's like there's a structure, there's a path to take for men, and we could take that path, but at what cost? At cost of maybe what we pursuing what we love, our creativity. And so I think right now men are desiring a path of creativity. It's why I think entrepreneurship is really picking up. That's why I think that different types of cryptocurrency is picking up. I think there's alternative ways to living that you can provide in outside of the normal structures that have currently been built. And so it's kind of scary to do that. And so for a man to do that, he has to feel like self-worth, has to feel valued, has to feel like what he does actually has and contributes value to society, right? So there's a lot of stuff around this. And then they need to take the leap of faith to actually go start this business in hopes that this business succeeds to provide for their future wife and kid. And if it doesn't pull off, this is my biggest fear, by the way, is if this doesn't pull off, then I pretty much fail at providing for my future wife and kid. I fail at providing a service to society. And the safe path was just to go do the 9 to 5 job for someone that provides me with security. And then I can provide security too, but at the expense of my feminine, at the expense of my love and my creativity and my expression, my true expression of self. And so this is why I feel like a lot of men are struggling and there isn't a clear path here. And so what service or offer or what thoughts do you, I guess, would you
This is where the woman
provide?
comes in, though.
Yeah, lovely.
Men need the woman, and they don't have it.
Why?
Because a lot of women are trying to be the man. And so if a man, the amount of things that a man can do when he goes home to nothing but love and to be taken care of, the business isn't going to fail. I've seen men move mountains for women that they love. It's when he's on his, I'm not saying he can't do it on his own, because he can, and I've obviously had to be my masculine and do it on my own as well. But if a man is going out there and trying to build a business or get something off the ground, if he knows that by the end of the day he can step through that threshold, that door, at 6 o'clock in the evening, and there's a woman there that absolutely cannot wait to see him and hug him and cuddle him and have dinner with him and talk to him, that gives him more fuel. It gives him energy to then get up the next day and do it again. And that's what's lacking, because women are trying, the women these days, the way that society is set up, and sometimes as well, the way women are, their mindset is, well, I've got to go to work as well. So she's doing the same thing as him. They're both coming home, walking through the threshold at 6 o'clock, and they're both tired. And so they can't look after each other she's resentful, she's tired, he's tired, and it doesn't work. So you need someone to be on the other side of everything. That's where women step in, and we don't have that. So I have a lot of compassion for men, because men need to be loved. And this is one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about bringing women back into the feminine, because our men need love. That's it.
And I think you're right. You're so right there. And it's not to say that women can't go to work. I don't think that's what we're saying here either. Is like, as a man, and this is where, to bring Andrew Tate into this, I know this is quite fun, but I listened to his stuff the other day, and I'm not a massive advocate or fan of Andrew Tate, but I like to understand his points of views and see where he's extreme and where I think, but he spoke about, he had a tweet about how like a woman should, stay home, do her makeup, dress well, go to the gym, take care of herself, take care of the kid, blah, blah, all this stuff, right? And I think it was sarcastic in tone. And I think at least that's at least what he claims. And so if it is sarcastic, I understand what he's saying. And so he's not saying that women should just stay home and do nothing. And he's not saying that they shouldn't do whatever they love. I think what he's saying, and what I'm also pro for, is that as a man, you have this desire to provide and provide enough resources and security to your wife, to your woman, to partner, so that they have the freedom and choice to do what they want, whether that be work, whether that be going to the gym, whether that be starting up a business for themselves, whether that be writing, whatever it is that you want to give them freedom. That's essentially what we want. We want our wife and our children to have freedom. And to the other point there is like, there's this massive like argument between like, the role of a masculine or man, a role of a female and the feminine. And they got their points, but I really don't think that that's the case. I really don't think that's what we should be looking at. I really do believe it's about the children. It's about the future. Like that's really what we should be focusing on. So, the kid needs attention. They need so much attention, right? Up until the age, but from 0 to 4 is like one of the most crucial parts of their lives. Like their character pretty much sets in by 4. If they're not socially adapted, meaning that the kid isn't liked by other kids, has social anxiety, feels like a rebel, has anger management issues, whatever it is. If that's there at 4, it's really hard to get rid of that later on. And so even myself, like I want to work really, really hard so that when I do have a kid, that I can be there for the first 4 years, because I know how crucial and important that is. And so I don't want my wife even going to work then either. Like I want this, because what is the point of us going to work? What is the point of us being of service to all these things if it's not the future generation and our children within our own household, So it's like, I feel like we need to let go of our own desires, right? It's this surrender and service. So both sides are surrendering and are being of service to the child, and then what if you don't actually want a child then? Well, then you can have a different dynamic within your relationship because you're exploring these new sort of things. But if you do want a child, then I think the child becomes the most important thing. And so that's where the masculine and the feminine combine together to create the Trinity, which is the 1, 2, like you said, the 1, 2, and 3. So the third would be the child, which is the third point of view, which is the middle as well, right? can imagine you have like 1 point masculine, 1 point feminine. In the center, you have the child and the individual, and that becomes the focus, and that becomes the center point. And so, what are your thoughts, and do you train clients within that? And what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, a lot of women come to me and they don't want children. But then once we start doing the womb healing, they do want children. So again, it's rejecting that feminine energy. And women are so shamed. Like it's not that I want a husband, I want to be a wife.
Yeah.
Which is a whole different thing. It's like you want to be that person for someone you love. Yeah, 100%. And I would love to be a mother. So, but 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I wasn't that bothered about it. But then the more you step into that feminine, so a lot of women, they're made to feel ashamed. It's kind of like, oh, that's what you want to do. You just want to be a wife. I can't think of anything better. Or you just want to be a mother.
I think it's a beautiful thing. And I think like the world's so complex. Part of me, I love the business pursuit and everything like that as well. But there's a part of me that loves and desires the simplicity, just to be able to sit in the simple things in life and just to appreciate it. And I think that's an ultimate goal too. Like there's a time to work really hard. There's a time to grind and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. But then there's also a time to sit back and enjoy the pleasures and luxuries of life that you've possibly earned. You want to feel like you maybe earned that. But I think everyone's born with that too. And I think that's really what I want to cultivate and teach is like you already do earn all this. You really do have love and you should be accepted for who you are. And if we foster that love and respect to who you are as an individual, then you have the freedom to go do whatever it is that you please in service of the world. And so I actually thought about this quite a bit yesterday because there's another continuing Andrew Tate's podcast with Piers Morgan, about Gaza and Israel, and really how do we help? Like I thought about, okay, how do I actually help this, right? And because we're all responsible, I really believe that each and every single one of us are responsible for the acts of everyone in the world. And so you think of what causes this to happen is that we don't accept the evil within ourselves. We don't accept that part of ourselves. And so what stops that from happening was if every single person did what they loved, right? And so that means if I pursued the best version of myself, which for me is like creating movies and stories and telling meaningful messages through that. And if I did that, it would hopefully inspire more people to do what they love. And if everyone did what they love, then hopefully we'd have a world of peace. If that's, whether or not we do or don't, that's a different story, but something to aim for. And so my message is just go and do what you love. And so you could be sitting here being like, oh, there's something I want to do that I love. And it's crazy to make this crazy, but I think if you don't do what you love, you are contributing to the harm and hurt in society.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I really think that.
Yeah.
Because at some point in time, you could become bitter, resentful because you never actually felt like you could do that and pursued it. Yeah. And you're also not inspiring others to do great things. And I think that's what we need to all do. And the thing is, all of us have the opportunity to do that. Every single one of us can inspire someone to do that. And I think every one of us want to do that. We want to inspire people. We want to make a change. We want to do this thing. And so that is your responsibility to go do that. And funny is responsibility for me is your ability to respond to something. And so what is your unique ability to respond in that situation? And so I want to ask you that question is, what do you think your unique ability is to respond in this time, in this age, within the masculine and feminine? That conflict.
Well, I like that you said that. I mean, Bashar, do you know Bashar?
I heard Bashar, yeah.
His definition of abundance is to be able to do what you need to do in the moment that you need to do it.
Right.
That's his definition of abundance. I think that's always going to change. And I think our Dharma changes. I think we have multi-levels of Dharma and life purpose. And if we're constantly flowing with it and moving towards it, we'll constantly seek out that it's inner peace, right? If everyone's at peace, then the world is at peace. But if we're not doing what it is that we really want to do, then you're right. There's a resentment that sits underneath. And I saw that in my grandfather. He was a singer. He had an amazing voice. And there's lots of schools in London that wanted to have him and take him on and have him perform. And his dad didn't let him. He said, no, you're not going to make any money in that, starving artist. Yep. And so he ran a farm until the end. And he had real anger issues. And it's because he wasn't allowed to be his true self. And he took that out on his wife, which then my mother had to witness that. So then my mother had her trauma that was then put onto me, and I've had to clear that. It's this ongoing cycle. It's not even just, okay, you're not following your purpose, so you're going to have resentment. You're going to pass that across and down.
Yeah.
So, and it probably goes above you as well. It's all, that's why we're here to kind of clear these levels of trauma that's in the ancestral timeline, right? Because it follows through. But if we're not following our life purpose, first of all, you're not going to women have to surrender to their purpose and men have to chase their purpose. If a man's not chasing his purpose, he becomes depressed. If a woman is not surrendering to hers, she becomes burnt out.
Yeah.
So that's why it goes back.
Could you explain that a little further for everyone to just...
Yeah, I mean, this is where it goes back to the feminine and the masculine. Like, you know, women, we've been taught, even in the spiritual realms of manifestation, right? Manifestation. So even that is in a masculine way. It's all, because masculine is all about doing and feminine is all about being.
Yeah.
But the world is designed to do. So even for women and spiritualism, like, write your affirmations, do your journaling, do all these things. There's not much about just surrender and peace and it will come. You do hear of it, but it's not the biggest part of spiritualism. So the feminine, our energy is to receive, is to absorb, and then to create based on what we've been given. So that becomes a problem when a woman can't receive because she doesn't think she's worthy to receive, or she's so much in the doing that there's no time to receive.
No.
And for men, again, it goes back to the body, the genitals, right? He's got the penetration energy. So he can literally go, right, that's my goal, and he'll build it. I need to speak to that person. I need to write that. I need to build that. I need to do that. And he'll build his way up to it. But when a woman tries to do that, she'll first of all become very masculine. She has to be in the masculine to do that. And then she gets burnt out because her body is showing her that her natural state of being is to surrender. So women actually don't have to do that much to get what we want, but we have to cultivate the feminine energy. We don't have to do that much. But for women, it's all about quality over quantity. The more feminine energy a woman has, the less she has to do to get what she needs.
And what about for men, though? Because I think that the same rules and principles apply to a man.
Okay.
So example, right? Like what I see, and this is what I mean, like I don't know if I agree entirely with like just the man and female having the doing and the like being. Receiving the being. Because for a man, like I see a lot of structures, businesses built today, enterprises, they are just doing, and they just did things because they wanted success. They wanted to have status. Which they attained all these things, right? And the issue I find with that is that it's great. I love and can respect that energy and that go hard and go do something. However, I think that what we're missing is the feminine inside of the man too. Right. And I don't mean like a female partner by your side. I mean like the values and principles of a man to sit and reflect, to receive, to be like, okay, what's happening? What are the themes in my life? What's going on? What am I passionate about? What are my values? What I love? How do I want to contribute? You know, what am I, you know, and that's why I look at the hero archetype quite a bit, and even just kings, like people like, like just stories of ancient times of like King Arthur and Camelot, and just the men and what they stood for, you know. And so embedded in those men is a very deep feminine sort of trait, which is I value love, I value freedom, I value fairness, honesty, security, nobility, all these things, right? You could say like that is shown to you as a man, like, you know, like so many things in my life have happened where it's like, you know, I pursued something for the wrong reason and I got whacked out. It's like, okay, well then I need to adjust my values a bit more. And so yes, I act. Yes, I do. But first I need to sit still and assess, what am I acting out of? You know what I mean? Am I acting out of love? Am I acting out of greed? So it's coming back to what is that initial motivation behind something. And so great, yes, men go do something. But maybe it's the feminine, the matriarchy coming in, being like, hey, guys, these are our values. So let's put a foundation of feminine energy, of feminine values and principles as the layer or the cornerstone of society, and then the men act upon those. And females can act upon those too. But I think regardless you're male or female, I think it starts with the feminine. It starts with what is my values and principles, and then you go into the masculine energy of doing. And I think we don't do that. A lot of people want to skip and jump ahead and do things for the sake of doing things. And I think that's the problem with society. And that's why I think we're coming back into a matriarchy right now.
Yeah, because this is why the traditional roles that I teach, it's what's your reason underneath it. I'm not cooking for my partner because I have to. I'm doing it because I want to. Exactly. And it's different. And so people only hear the surface of what I say, like be of service to your man, and he's of service to you. They just hear slavery. Whereas if we look at the reason I want to, then it's very different. But I do think we need both masculine and feminine energy.
100%. And I think you're a slave to. I think for me, I actually wrote about this. Like slavery has evolved. You used to be a slave to a person, but now you're a slave to yourself and your own ideas.
Slave to their phones.
Yeah, 100%. You're a slave to something, no matter what it is, right? The thing is, the only freedom from that is you get to choose what you're of service to, and that's freedom in that. But it doesn't mean you can't escape that,
Yeah, but I mean, I can't speak for men, but for women, with we have the different archetypes, and I'm sure you do as well. But with us, the three main archetypes of like maiden, mother, and crone, a lot of these have been erased or are being erased in society. Yeah. So women are afraid to get older, hence why there's so many cosmetic procedures available. They're scared to get older because they believe that when they get older, they're invisible. And the mother's slowly being erased as well. Yeah. So we have different because there's been no level, there's got to be an initiation from each archetype to the other. And because a lot of us haven't had the parents that we really needed to, like the crone, for example, the crone gives you the initiation. You go to the older, wiser woman, always. She has the answer. She's been here for the longest. So that was erased. So then we just got the maiden and the mother. And so with the crone gone, no one gives that maiden her initiation into the mother energy, which is not to be a mother physically, but it's just when you get, your sort of late 20s into your 30s, that's when you start to shift. And because we haven't had the crone to bring these women through, you have 40-year-olds acting like they're 20. Yeah, making the same, because the maiden years are all for making mistakes. Oh, I dated the bad guy and I learned the hard way that that's painful and I shouldn't date men like that and I shouldn't do this. And that's where you really make your mistakes and you learn. And then when you shift into the mother energy, life is suddenly not about you anymore. It's about being of service to others. And we haven't had that initiation into the motherhood. So a lot of women, no matter what age they are, they're acting in their maiden.
Yeah. And so I think regardless of masculine, feminine, male and female, right, what we're getting to is that actually at some point in consciousness within each individual, you shift from your personal desires to service, global desires, ways of higher service. Yeah. And so I think that's what people are confused about. It's like, no, we're not saying you surrender to a man and the man surrenders to a female. It's actually we become a servant to the greater good, essentially, through that. Yeah. And interesting, there's a couple of things here. One is Snow White. That's I listened to a podcast on the psychoanalogy of Snow White, and so how she was tempted to fall in love with her own beauty. And so if you look at the evil stepmother, the queen, she's in love with her own stepmother, but she's in love with herself, right? So she's like, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the finest of them all, right? So she's like obsessed with her self-image, where Snow White is unaware of her own beauty. And this is very true, by the way. Like being a man, I can tell you this straight away. Like a woman that is unaware of her own beauty is way more beautiful to me than a woman that is aware of her beauty. Because
same with men.
A woman that is aware of her beauty, although beautiful, can manipulate it. She uses it, and depending on how she uses it, right? Yeah, that's a very crucial thing. Like, how does she use her beauty and to entice me to get things her way? Whatever it is, right? To could be for a job, could be for fame, could be. So it's depending on why and how. It comes back to the intention, coming back to the feminine intention, like the beauty, the love, all those sort of things, the service. And so where is that coming from? Once you become aware of your beauty, because then everything is beautiful. Yeah, it's in and of itself. But side note, in second part was I actually want to talk about Barbie.
I've not seen it.
You haven't seen it? What? Oh my god!
But people keep telling me to watch it.
This would have been great.
What? Because it's feminine, isn't it? She doesn't have to choose Ken. She chooses herself. We had this conversation.
We did, but I really wanted to get into this because I think there's a lot of good parts of it. I think there's a lot of value in it. And I saw a lot of the points of view that it had, and I agree with a few of those and disagree with the ending in a lot of those as well. Was in the very beginning of the movie, right? She actually becomes aware of her morality. So she figures out that she becomes human, because she's human, she's actually going to die. And that's actually beautiful in itself. Becoming aware of death is beautiful, because now that is the combination of, I think, masculine and feminine. So one, you realize the beauty of life, the creation and destruction, feminine energy, right? Yeah. But because you are aware of the creation and destruction of your life, you now have a purpose and reason to act.
It's a container, right?
Right, exactly. So now you have this masculine and feminine energy to go out and act in the world. So the one, I thought that was brilliant how they displayed that, because then the movie begins and the act actually starts. But what it was really about was like it was making fun of the patriarchy, and I think the patriarchy has some things to be poked at and to be pointed at, because I think that's of value. Even myself, you poke fun at me and poke things at me, I might get frustrated, and equally will the patriarch and men get frustrated. But you're probably trying to point out something of value so I can see it and become more aware of it and integrate that into my character. What I don't like is that it's being poked at and made fun of so that it can't be integrated, so that it doesn't. So it's actually removed from society as opposed to integrated into society. So I think structures are important. I think what men have created today are important, and the act and what we do, but we shouldn't destroy those things entirely. And so what Barbie is about, in some sense, is actually the destruction of the patriarch completely and the masculine values, as opposed to integrating them and embedding them on the foundation of feminine. And that's evident through the fact that Barbie doesn't end up with a man and doesn't need a man at all in the movie. It's about feminine power and becoming that feminine individual, and how feminines are so like female, we're great, and this is what we're doing, and blah, blah. Great, but you've just created the feminine. You've created a patriarch.
Within the patriarchy.
Just an example, but with a different face on it. Different face on it.
100%.
That's actually not a matriarch. That's not what a matriarch is. And so there's a massive confusion between what a matriarch is and what a patriarch is. And so a matriarch isn't a patriarch with females at the top. A matriarch is something completely different, which I'm all for. But can you discuss and tell me what you think a matriarch is and what that looks like to you?
Well, it's roughly what you've described. It's because I'm not against the patriarchy.
Yeah.
But I do think it needs to be changed. I think we need to blend the two and work together as in a union.
Yeah.
So matriarchy, I mean, in my view, it's the way it's being depicted anyway, and it sounds like in the movie as well, is to destroy anything that's in the way, is to have it all one way, which I don't think is real, and to have fluidity and choice and freedom. But I don't think there's choice and freedom without a container in the first place. And I've learned this myself. When I had my first awakening, I want to break all the structures, right? I don't want to work 9 to 5. I don't want to do what I'm told I don't want to do. I want to break all these walls down. And then I did that and became really depressed because there's no container. That's why we need to accept death, like you said, because then it's like, well, I'm not here forever. So what am I going to do with it? And that's the beauty of someone my age. I'm in my 30s. So for me, it's like, well, you shift from maiden to the mother energy, which is, well, hang on a minute. I don't have all the time in the world anymore. The biological clock starts ticking. It's like, wait a minute, I can't afford to entertain the wrong people and waste my time with the wrong man because my body says I've only got this many years to have a baby. Yeah. So I think that the matriarchy is trying to knock walls down and destroy something, but I don't believe that's what the matriarchy actually is. I believe that's what we're being shown it is, but it's actually the patriarchy with a different face on it.
Yeah.
Because the real matriarchy is about going in with love and saying, how can we blend these things and how can I hold space for you, sir? Because that's again the patriarchy. Someone like me who's face to face with someone that's very patriarchal, I would sit there and listen and say, tell me how your mind works. Tell me why you want this structure and why that helps you. I want to understand. And by hearing that, I'm taking all that information, I'm absorbing it to myself, which is what my body is designed to do. And then we're both going to come up with an idea, and that person will feel so much love from me that he wants to build a structure around what I need. That's like if you take the matriarchy and the patriarchy and put it into two people. But what the matriarchy is doing right now is, you're wrong. That's not okay. You can't do that. We can do that, which is fighting, which is war, which is not feminine. Women don't fight. Masculine is war. And that's okay. Yeah. Because sometimes we need war. You go to war for the woman you love, right? So
on that note, though, I think a lot of this has stemmed from war. So if we look at my parents' generations and maybe possibly our grandparents, right? Is that there was actually a lack of men. They went to war and they died at war, and so there was a lack of structure in a household. A lot of people grew up without fathers. My grandfather grew up without a father and has to take care of a whole family, right? So I think what's happening today is possibly a consequence of what's happened in the past. It's like we've sent men to war. They have been of service to the country and what they've done because the values weren't based. Why are they going to war? Because of money, greed, we're trying to find resources in oil in other countries. We're trying to invade. We're trying to do all this sort of stuff. So our values are wrong as a society because our values aren't embedded in the feminine values. And so we've gone and acted out childishly. But that's part of evolution. That's part of growth. And so now I feel like there's been a lack of male role models in the world that we look up to, right? But it's because we didn't have male role models to base our lives and values off because they went to war. And so we were stuck without this sort of guidance. And I think society is in a place where we've lost our guidance. We've lost the male voice in that space. And so that's why I think people like Andrew Tate, people like Jordan Peterson are actually stepping up to the plate and taking on and feeling that role. And I think a lot of the points they have are very strong. But I disagree with a few of them as well. I think they're quite old with their thoughts, their thought processes. They're not quite modern. And so, but I think they understand that. I think because if you look at Egyptian myth, it's all about the old way of doing things. So the old king dies and the son goes down to save his father and then gives him his eye. This is like the Egyptian myth. And they can see the kingdom again, both the old masculine and the new masculine to combine a new world order, a new order of the world. But it's an act of surrender. It's an act of going down to the underworld, which is the feminine, because you can say the darkness in the underworld is the womb, right? So that's where we go. So the male has to go into the underworld, into the womb to reclaim and find his father and give his father the gift of love again. And that's how I see that as my role in my own family. It's like I need to understand my father. I need to understand his pain, where that comes from, so that I can rise up again, create a new order within my family, within my structure, create new rules and structures within my own family when I have children, and provide space for the feminine to be the glue of the family, right? To be able to give to the children, to be able to give myself and all these sort of things. But in saying that, I do not impose my desires and my personal desires on them. It's whatever is best for the entire family and structure. And so I think that's what's happened in a global level in terms of war. Yeah.
But then what you're saying, you have to, and this is how you separate boys and men, in my opinion. The boy is of service to himself, and the man is of service to his kingdom.
Yeah.
So you can always separate where a man is at in his phase in life. So what we're seeing now is a lot of men that are just mainly of service to themselves and women as well.
Yep.
So, that's like, oh, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to go sleep with her. I'm going to sleep with her. I'm not going to do that. And in order for us to really live out our Dharma and our true nature and our purpose, it's actually to sacrifice in order to get to where we need to get to. So for you, it would be, okay, I'm going to sacrifice that desire because my wife needs that, or my family needs that. But I do think that this is where partnership comes in with going into the underworld, because if you have a woman that she's got the womb, right?
Yeah.
So if a woman has done her inner work, she shouldn't be scared of the dark because she's fully integrated into the womb.
She is the dark.
She is the dark.
Yeah.
But most women are in their masculine because they're so stressed from working hours and being on their own. So she's actually not had her time to go into that underworld. Yeah. So when a woman's done that, she makes a fantastic life partner for a man that then wants to take his journey into the underworld because she already knows the way.
Could you explain how women are the dark? Because I'd love to go into that more as well.
Well, everything's born in the dark. The womb is darkness. So, and the men are light. So in Sanskrit, penis means lingam. That's the Sanskrit word for penis, if I can say that on your podcast.
You can say that, yeah.
Okay, cool. And lingam means wand of light. So men literally are the light, and when he makes love to her, the light goes up through her. So she gets a taste of the light, and he gets to rest in the dark. So we carry the darkness being the womb, and every life cycle begins in the energy of the womb. So her womb and her connection to it will expand into her home, right? So like when you came into my house today, you went, oh, this is very you. Yeah, because I've connected myself into the house. So now this is my womb space, and anyone that steps here will feel the energy of my presence and my love. Yeah. So a woman has to be connected back to her womb. Again, that's why I do this work. She has to be connected to that womb space. Yeah. And she has to be okay. The womb is all about death and destruction. Yes, we're birthings, but that might happen once in your whole lifetime, maybe twice, maybe more. Yeah. But our menstrual cycles, every month we bleed, we are destroying the womb and we're destroying all the emotions that were stored in the womb. So it all comes out with it. Yeah. So we're constantly regenerating. We work on a 28-day basis roughly. Men actually work on a 3-month basis. The scale's different. But we are the death and destruction and the darkness. And any woman that's afraid of that in a partnership, she's not going to be able to entertain a man that wants to go on this hero's journey because she hasn't been there.
Yeah.
Because women lead spiritually, and men tend to go on their biggest quest when they meet the woman that they love.
Yeah.
And if she's been on that journey, she knows the way. You can go on your own, but she's always around, and she understands it, and she's not scared of it. So if you were, let's say you were going to go rock climbing, and the person that's holding the rope is like, "Oh my God, be careful, be careful," you're going to be like, "Am I safe?" But if they're standing there and going, "You're fine, you got this. I've done this a million times before. You got it. You'll get there, right?" Yeah. So you need that person by your side that kind of knows the way as well. And men know the way of the light. They know more about the surface stuff and the logical stuff, because we can get lost in the darkness and in the womb. Yeah. And if I have a problem, I'm not looking for my partner to go, well, maybe I need him to listen, or maybe I need him to have an emotional conversation with me. But sometimes just him saying, "You really don't have to worry about that. It's not going to happen." That's enough.
Yeah.
Done. Because it just brings that light in. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I kind of got lost in my thought there.
Yeah. That's beautiful, because, I think the day literally works like this.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of energy and the symbolism, right? So if you think about nighttime, you go to bed.
Yeah.
You enter the dream world, which is the underworld, which is you're sleeping in the dark. Yeah, so that's the feminine, right? It's when every single one of us has a relationship with the feminine at night. Yeah. It takes care of us. We spend time within that container. And then when the sun rises in the morning, which is the masculine, right? The light. What causes you to act, one, is the light, so you can see things. I can go act in the world. But two, the actual heat. When the body heats up, it wants to go and expose and disperse energy, right? So even the very structure of the day, of the cycles, of everything, is very important to understanding how to be in the world and what role you have to play. And, taking on roles is a crazy thing. A lot of people love Lion King. And I always come back to this, right? Because we think about, like, well, where did he end up? He ran away from Pride Rock. He ran away from his responsibility. He ran away from everything that he was to do. And he went to the underworld, which is this magical place where it's in the forest, which is the feminine, to discover himself, discover who he truly is, right? But then he meets his father. He has to remember who he is. He has to put himself back together and remember himself. And then he has to go so he goes from serving himself, right, as a young boy, as a young cub, in this place of, like, playing around to Hakuna Matata, nothing matters, no worries. And then he goes back to Pride Rock. Why? He's serving himself over here. But he goes back because he has a responsibility to take care of society and something greater than himself, which is what you spoke about earlier. And so I think all of us understand this. All of us want this. It's why it's one of the biggest movies of all time in our generation. And so it's funny how that we don't actually understand what we truly desire. And I think if you watch movies and you understand what that movie is telling you, what you liked about the movie, it's really telling you something about your own inner psychology and what you desire, what you want, and what is true and what's right in the world. Whether it is, right or wrong, but it's what's right now. That's what we're being called to right now. And that's why I think film and movies is a great way to kind of tap into what you truly believe, and because it gives you different points of views and different perspectives on things.
Well, the way your mind works, like you're able to, you're probably a step ahead of a lot of men, because you're able to consciously see things from that perspective. I think some men they're so distracted by their phone, for example, they haven't actually had time, but, like, they know they need something. They know there's something missing, but they don't know what it is. Whereas you're at a point where you've learned, okay, if there's something missing, I can go and figure out what that is. Yeah. But a lot of men, they feel the emptiness and they can't feel it. They don't understand that.
Well, I'd say it is a connection to the feminine.
It is. It is the underworld.
Yeah.
It is to sit in the dark. When have you ever been depressed before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you have a craving to just be at home? And
I had a craving
be in bed and
to be in my own space.
Right.
And it was because it was where I was the most creative. I loved being up late at night. Like, I loved the solitude.
Yeah. So that's you returning to the womb.
Yeah.
So depression is you've been pushing yourself for so long in the direction that isn't serving you.
Yeah.
And so there's a craving to return back to the womb so that you can be reborn. So when people have depression, they tend to want to be at home because that's the womb space, close the curtains, maybe get in bed or be on the sofa. You know, there's a lack of rules. You know, I mean, I've walked into many depressed people's houses and it always looks the same. The curtains are closed. There's dishes piled up in the sink because this idea of eat something, then clean up after myself is diminished. It's just, well, I need to eat, I'm hungry, and then they don't finish the rest, right? Nothing's washed up, nothing's cleaned. So the curtains are closed, they're in bed, they're on the sofa, there's stuff there, it's a mess. But it's them cultivating that energy of the womb because they know there's something that has to die within them. And to return to the womb is where that has to happen. So why I love the Never-Ending Story.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
And you watch it as a child and you love it because it's got all these mystical creatures, but then you watch it as an adult and you go, oh my God, that's the most profound storyline. And at the end, you know, when Fantasia is destroyed, he's left there with the Empress with this grain of sand. He's like, this is all that's left of Fantasia. And he says, why is it so dark? And she says, because everything starts in the dark. So everything is born through death and destruction. So depression is your chance to go back to the womb.
Back to that.
So that's why people shouldn't be afraid of depression.
No, you should honor that. Honor that space. There's something
it's very important.
It is, yeah. And Jim Carrey talks a lot about this too.
Right. Your avatar is tired of the act, right?
Yeah. He thinks like it's just true. Your character is not, he's tired of this. And, you know, this relates to back to like, you know, Shakespeare, you know, all men and women are actors on the stage sort of thing, right? Yeah. And so we are, and that's why this is an act. Yeah. We do put on a persona, persona meaning mask. We do, and the word person means mask. And so it's really about, you know, what are we showing the world? Who is our character? And discovering who you truly are and finding the person under the mask. And you might have to peel back all these layers. And to find that, you might need to go through depression. You might need to go through the darkness to do that. And I think a lot of people do. And I think a lot of people go, it's called the dark night of the soul.
Yeah. Been through many of them.
And then you can end up there. And so we can talk about this another time, but I had an experience where I had to forego my identity completely. It's a sort of ego death. And I think you experience that in the dark too. You release DMT if you do a dark retreat. And so that's actually something I'm going to go do later on this year, is to have the experience. And I think that's what a lot of men lack, is the ability to destroy their ego and their character that they built for so long, because there's this identity and cleanliness to it. And it's a very westernized sort of belief. I think we need to integrate more Eastern philosophy, which is what I mean by, like, I think it's more feminine, because you think about Eastern philosophy, it's cyclical. They believe in reincarnation. Yeah. So it's circle, it's feminine, it's embedded in feminine, where the Western is like, we have one life, YOLO. It's a linear sort of thing. And so our philosophy is embedded in masculine, and that's our error. It's our philosophy should be embedded in the feminine in order to act out the proper masculine as well. And so I think that's where we're kind of at conflict with ourselves. And so then we need to change our beliefs. And then this comes back into science. Like, and we were talking about the calendar earlier. It's like, well, you know, things are cyclical. We should be following time. And other people that don't like time, you know, I think that's an error too. I feel like, you know, a lot of conversations I've had with men, and mainly actually men, you know what, at Orchid Street.
That's where we all got. It's all those
where we met, right?
Everyone talks.
But every time I'm there, right, I speak to like males and females, but men hate labels. I've had so many conversations, in particular ones that are spiritual. Yeah, they go there. They hate labels. Yeah, they hate labels, and it's been this massive theme. But that's hating the masculine.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Right? It's hating the masculine because you hate the container. Like, you don't see the value in the container. They want to just destroy it because they feel so oppressed by it. They're like, I can't go back. It's causing so much pain and everything. But I'm like, you need to understand that this is a chance for you to recreate the container. The power is in with you. Don't go destroying containers and then causing havoc on the world. It's I think that's a very dangerous path. It's like, well, it doesn't mean that we just that's the whole thing. Go back to the feminine. Go back there. Destroy what you need to destroy, but then come back and integrate the masculine and rebuild again. And I am afraid that we are just destroying ourselves on a global level too, not individually, but as society. Is that we just want to destroy everything right now. And that goes into this. I don't know if you have time for this. How much time do you have? This goes into even the gender roles, right? Like, are we destroying gender roles because of this desire to destroy things right now? Like, you know, like I don't want to be labeled as this thing or that thing. And I had a podcast with someone recently. Like, I agree spiritually that you are not a male or female. Spiritually, I believe you're connected to source. You are everything. Biologically, you are male or female.
Yeah.
Those are the only two, because that is a limited form. It's categorized. There is biologically, you can't argue that. It just is what it is. I can't argue that this physical table isn't
People
here.
are trying though.
Because we want to get rid of the masculine, and that's what's happening. We're trying to destroy this like what we've built so far. And look, something new could be born, 100%. And this is where I'm like, I don't know if it's all natural. It could be natural. Maybe there is a third way coming about. Maybe through the change of our hormones, the change of because of the water we drink, the perfume that we spray on us, everything we interact with is changing our hormones, right? So are we really feeling like this, or is it just the society that we've created? And this is why we're purging this. We're trying to destroy it because we know it's not actually natural. It's not good for us. And so, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think energy will always override physical eventually. Like, even if you're spraying the perfume or drinking the water from the tap, this is filtered, or eating the foods with the chemicals, if your main energy source is feminine or masculine, it overrides things. It's like if you look at Abraham Hicks's work, where they say, people say to them all the time, well, should I be eating these foods? Should I be eating those foods? Well, if you know something's really bad for you, then you should probably avoid that. But at the end of the day, if you're eating your food with love and gratitude, that's going to override what you put in your body.
Right, but you need love and gratitude.
100%.
So what if you're unaware of that?
If you're unaware of that, then that's where the problems come in. Yeah. So I've predicted, I've been doing this for a while, that we're going to see a massive fluctuation of illness in men and women in the next 100 years. Because all the women that come to me in their masculine energy have the same physical illnesses as the men that come to me in their feminine. Men that are leading in their feminine they're depressed. They're really depressed. They're suicidal.
What do you mean by leading in their feminine?
So leading is making a choice. So if a man chooses to do something through his emotions every time, like, oh, I feel that way, so I'm going to go do that now, like an impulsive reaction, that's when you see a lot of depression in that man. If a woman is in her masculine, she's constantly leading, go, 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 don't shut my emotion, like at work, for example. Now, if a woman has to work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, she has to show up the same way every day. That's literally impossible for a woman to do naturally. Yeah, she has to put on a persona to do that.
See,
so she's
you say when men are leading to their feminine, right? Yeah, there's an issue. But do you think that's too general? Do you think that they're leading by the wrong feminine? Because the example, right? We spoke about this earlier. Was about men leading through their feeling or their emotion, but it depends what they value. Right, because if they're pursuing it because of greed, let's say security, sense of security, that could be a masculine thing that they're looking for, but they don't have their values aligned. So maybe they'll take on a client that, example, right? You have a client that contributes to cigarettes, so it contributes to lung cancer, but because that helps you attain security, right? You accept that role, you accept that client, you accept that job. And so, but you're making a very logical choice there, right? So that you can define that as masculine, even though it's based off their emotions.
Yes. Well, the reason men are so good in business and men are so good at leading is because they can put their emotions to one side.
But is that good business?
Yes, I think so. I'll give you an example.
Give me an example.
This is nameless because this is someone that is close to me, but a friend of mine, she works for a company abroad, and she had an issue with, actually her and multiple women had an issue with one member of, as a male, one member of staff. He was being very sexual towards these women, and he was making them uncomfortable, and more than a handful of women complained about this man. This is what he's doing. And the leader, the manager, is a woman, and she felt guilty about letting that man go because her emotions were in tune with him. Well, he doesn't know what he's doing. He didn't mean it like that, right? Because we can do that as women. We can justify anything. Okay. So she kept him on. And then there ended up being complaints about him from people that were actually coming along to have the service from him. And he caused issues. Now, if it was a man, he'd say, okay, you're out. I don't feel sorry for you. You've sexually harassed 5 women. I've had 5 complaints about you. You're out. because he's not going to sit and feel sorry for him. He can put his emotions to the side.
I agree.
Do you see? That's like a real.
I agree with that, but I still think there's something deeper, which is the values, which is example, like, okay, good business for me, right? And Gary Vee talks about this a lot. It's like, it's being of higher service and providing higher value. Same as Alex Hormozy, right? Very successful, probably not one of the biggest names right now. He talks about providing a good product and how that sells itself. So you could be great at business. You can make as many sales as you want and have a great sales team. But if your product isn't good, then what's the point?
True.
Right? Yeah. So that's a very masculine thing to do. And so that's men leading from their masculine. It's fully masculine. Where I think a man leading from their feminine with integration of their masculine, right, is like, okay, well, I can be very smart about this. Like, I can do my business. I can make my sales. I can go do my outreach. I can act, but I want a good product. That to me is feminine.
Yeah.
That to me is like, I value, whatever. I value love. I value freedom. I value, health. Let's say health. Health is a great one. Example, I've worked in a lot of gyms, and I am tired of working for people that don't have their values straight. Like you're in a gym, but you work at a tech company. You don't train a day in your life. You have zero education in the health system. You don't do anything for your staff. You're not a good leader. All these things, right? But you have a great business and you're successful. Would you call that a great business? Would you call that success? And for me, I do not call that success, and I don't call that great business. I call that greed, and I call that like an illusion. And I think that's our issue, is that we've through media, through whatever it is, through our own perceptions, our own values, is we see that as valuable. So it's a false feminine.
I got you.
Right. And I think I think that we're leading falsely from feminine and acting out of masculine, which is all these traits. Yeah. And so I don't know. I don't know.
Well, men definitely do need to have their integrity. And if they're the ones that are building, like if you look at the destruction of the planet, that's people working out of alignment with the earth itself. So,
but this is big, right? Because do you work for a company like that?
I wouldn't.
But what if it provides you with service and security, and your man did to provide for you and your children? I
mean, I understand the dilemma. This is why I wanted to work for myself. My father was in oil my whole life. He started working on the oil mines when he was 17 until he retired. He was in contracts. So, I always used to say to him, like, Dad, the oil is the blood of the earth. You're just taking it. But he had to provide for his family. So it's not, I have no judgment of like, you shouldn't be doing that. I understand
them for that. And that's one thing. We can't go condemning them and starting a war about this.
No.
But we need to increase our awareness around this.
Yeah. So it's the integrity. So you see land just being bought like it's nothing, and then skyscrapers being built. No respect for the land, no respect for what energy is on that land.
Yeah. But that's feminine.
Yeah, that is feminine. So it's that integration of the integrity.
Yes. So but you said that men that lead out of their feminine are depressed. But I would say that you're now asking for men to lead out of their feminine.
I think men need to be integrated with their integrity, but then lead with the masculine. So let's say
but lead, lead. What do you mean by lead? Because we maybe need to define this. Because lead for me would be like, maybe I'm leading from my heart. What do you mean by leading from my mind, my heart? Like, when you say masculine, what does that? Leading from masculine, what is that? So
it's not running on the emotions. So, for example, let's say, you want to build a retreat center like everyone else in this town, right?
Yeah.
Including me.
Yeah.
You're going to spot the land. That's the land for me. That's got all the energy that I need.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm going to get this built. So if you wake up let's say you've been building for 5 days.
Yeah.
And you've built the whole fruit. I don't know how you build a house. Okay. You can tell. But let's say you wake up and you go, I'm tired today. I'm feeling a bit off. And if you sit and you'll never build that land. Yeah. You'll never build that retreat. Yeah. So men are really good, and they're good at this. It's natural for men to be like, it doesn't matter if I'm tired. It doesn't matter if I feel a bit off today. I've got to get up. I've got a duty to do. I've got to build this place.
Yeah.
Whereas a woman, we can sit in the emotions and we can do it in a way that doesn't actually get us lost because we carry the womb. We can go back to the womb, come back up, go into the womb, come back up. So that's what I mean. If a man kind of gets lost in his thoughts, lost in his emotions, and isn't building what he needs to build for the greater good, that's something that men are good at.
I understand. So maybe like redefining, like I think maybe leading with logic, leading with the masculine, but it's embedded in feminine.
Yeah,
so
Gary Vee's a great example of that, right?
It's so defined. Like example, like am I going to build a place that is destructive to the community or not? And then it's like great, I can decide really quickly now. And so you're adding them. I think sometimes I'm saying integration of proper values. I think helps you align to make choices a lot faster and better because something I thought about was like I can work really hard in the wrong direction, which I have. I've worked hard and endlessly, like 24 hours a day to just get this business up and running. But you know what? It was in the wrong direction. I had the wrong values, the wrong principles. I had the wrong marketing. I had the wrong everything. And it succeeded financially in some sense, but it didn't succeed in terms of providing me value, in terms of healing and helping with depression, to provide me with purpose and meaning, right? So, because I wouldn't say right now I don't feel depressed at all. I feel like But you
don't lead with your feminine.
I don't lead with my feminine.
You've integrated it, but you lead with your masculine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I would say,
like your book, all the things that you've written, your website, you haven't. You've just gone and done it.
Yes, right. But they come from the feminine.
So your integration into your heart, because men and women do.
Doesn't make sense. If you look at me, right, I think I don't make sense to a few people in that regard. Like, why would I leave my job? Right? Because I don't like my boss, to go do coaching, to go write a book. They're very feminine things to go do, like to express my emotions through these things. But I guess my values and my perception of what a man is different there. Like I think a real man stands up for the integrity and values of the greater good. And so I will leave a job not knowing. See, this is what I'm saying. I don't know if that's very masculine. It's not me. Well, the logic, for me, it's logical. For me, it's logical to leave that place because I will learn more and I will be out of a place that is detrimental to my health and my mental health and my physical health so that I can be better, that I can go and perform better as well. So it is masculine. So I can actually do more things, right? But it seems like a feminine thing to a lot of people. Maybe that's what it is. It seems like, well, he's pursuing it out of his heart, which I am. But I think my heart and my head are have the same intention. They're aligned because the quicker you get out of something that you're not meant to be, the quicker you'll find where you're supposed to go.
Yeah. It's like the alchemist, right?
Yeah.
Finding what suits you and what's right for you. But that's where women come in again, because when a woman meets a man that's not integrated into his heart, she actually, that's her role in his life, is to integrate him into his heart so that when he does things, there's alignment. He's not just going to go in and bulldoze down a building and build something and not care about the land or anything. He is in his heart. So he's connected, but he leads with his with his logic.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So that's, again, but we've taken women away. So you guys don't have women so much.
I don't. I did. I don't. So
even especially around this town, I don't know if you've noticed, because I don't know what women you spend time with, but the women that I run into, not my immediate circle, but people I run into all the time, the women here are very masculine. The land here is not expansive.
They are quite masculine.
Not where we spend time, because we consciously spend time in conscious places where there's femininity and masculinity. Yeah. We choose to do that.
Well, do you think there's masculinity there? Because I haven't seen much of it there.
Where are we talking about?
Where we met.
There's a lot of femininity there.
Yeah, I think so. I don't see many masculinity in that place at all.
Not unless it's with a woman. They come in with her. Yeah, exactly. But yes, there's a lot of, it's because it's consciousness. It's a heart integrated space. Everything's made with the intention of love, and it's so it is it's a feminine space.
It's interesting, right? Because I actually go there, and maybe that's my feminine. That's because I am looking for that place. Because I go there because you know why? It gives me more energy to go act, to go do. That's really why I'm there. Yeah. I go there because I walk inside. It's like the service is beautiful. Connections you have are beautiful. The people you meet are beautiful. It makes sense because I met you. We now perform more things. I can act in the world. This is what I guess it is, acting. Yeah. But I need that container and able to relax to unwind, to journal, to think, to be able to sit in the darkness. For me, it feels like the darkness. It feels like the room. It feels very secure and safe. Where, funny, I don't have that at home so much because my home is just me. It's masculine.
You're also a projector, right? So you need people's energy around you.
Yeah. But also my home is it is quite masculine.
Yeah.
There's 2 guys living there. So like there is no space to sit in the feminine, and you're right. I think males do need a feminine place to sit in order to act in the world, to be able to act just and properly in the world. And maybe that's what's lacking, is a place for them to sit in the feminine as well, which is creativity, right? It's to be creative.
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm the opposite. Like I'll go there and just read my book sometimes and just be. I'll go there if I need connection. Yeah. Because I know that there'll be someone there that I know. Yeah. And I'll end up having a conversation with them for an hour. If I want to sit and write my book and get stuff done, I will go to a different cafe. There's a cafe down the road. Yeah. It's owned by a man. Yeah. It's more masculine based. Market Lane? Roast Office. Roast Office. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah. And he knows me in there. He's very he's got masculine. So I will sit and I will get my work done. I'll have a coffee and I'll have some brekkie, and he always laughs at me because he knows what I order and he knows what I like and what I don't like.
Interesting.
And he gets done.
Because you don't come home.
No.
It's interesting. Because your home is feminine.
Yeah, it is.
So actually I go home to work.
Okay. I have to leave
I go in the morning, right? I go in the morning to the to orchestrate, to the cafe.
Yeah.
To embed myself and found myself in the feminine first thing, so that I have the energy, the clarity, so that I can go act and decide what is meaningful and what is the best steps I can take today.
Yeah.
So I can think clearly. Then I go home and act in that, and I sit at home and I will sit there till like 10, 11 at night until I get things done.
Yeah.
So interesting that you go to
I look for masculine.
You look for masculine, and I'm looking for feminine.
You could outside probably work here of our home. Well.
Work here? I could come here to ideate, to have the ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could go home.
Because it's funny, I don't have the ideas so much at home because it's a very masculine place. It's a place for me of doing, but I don't want to conflate that too because it's my bedroom, and I don't want to mix my bedroom with like my sleeping patterns, which I have done. Yeah. That's because it's just conditions right now, and I love where I live at the beach. I can I can escape. It's quite good. But it's interesting how we both use our home and structures of masculine and feminine because of our different genders here. Yeah. As well. Mm-hmm. But back to the point.
What was the point?
which we've gone on attention on was the different in genders now. Yeah. And these roles being conflated, people feeling like they're male, people feeling like they're female, people that want to take on these different roles, because I agree philosophically that you are not male or female. And I think that there's a misinterpretation of like just energy, like feminine energy, masculine energy, because I feel the feminine energy within me and I feel the masculine energy with me. And there's these labels, and people, so that's why there's all these labels on people, and they take labels. I think they just perceive labels as oppressive.
When actually they're safe.
Exactly. Yeah, they're safe. And they like having a label means I can actually, it's a masculine thing, but it means I can act, right? It means I can do something, because we're using words, right? Words are labels. They're not the exact thing. Yeah. They're not exactly what we're talking about. We're trying to describe something through words, which is like the combination of masculine and feminine. Yeah. But without a word, without a label, I can't describe something to you. I can't call that thing over there a couch and have you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So the labeling of that helps us to act in the world. However, it's not actually a couch. We've come up with the word couch, and I think that's what people are trying to get at. I understand. Okay. Yeah. Yes, you're right. It's not actually a couch. But you need to forgo that and let go of that strictness, right? Yeah. I'm not saying it's a couch because it's what truth is. I think people are trying to get to the truth, but you can't. You can't get there without clouding it up.
You have to have labels on things.
You do. Yeah. And that's actually the biggest wound in the world. Right?
Yeah. But that's in a way, it's erasing the masculine, because that structure, that logic of that's a couch, and it is a couch. Yeah. That's we need that to understand.
It is in human terms, in terms of our reference.
Yes.
In terms of our perception. But in a spiritual sense, and by the way, that could be something it's something that you can rely on. It's something that evokes emotion. It's something that, could be something meaningful, so you could have a story behind it. It's so many more things than that, right? But we're using it in a way just so we can actually discuss something. And we are able to look at this thing and discuss it right now. Without the label, we can't. So without labels, we can't act. Without labels, we can't exist.
Exactly.
And
we need them.
We need them.
So we need the masculine.
We do.
Yeah.
And very, very interesting, right? Is like Jordan Peterson talks about this. And what does God lack? What do you think?
I don't even know. I wouldn't even know what to say.
Like omnipresence, infinite, transcendent.
Well, I suppose it's not physical touch, although people can argue that too.
Yeah.
Because you can say, I'm God and you're God.
Well, if it has everything, it's infinite, it lacks limitation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? It doesn't have it actually can't exist. Because even like myself when I'm younger, right, I have all these different ideas of who I could be and what I could do and business ideas and all this sort of stuff. And so it's kind of infinite, right? But that's very overwhelming. So what I've noticed is like that part of me, it gets very, very overwhelmed because it can be anything. And it's not until I decide, which means to cut away from, that I'm going to be one certain thing, that I label myself in order to exist in the world. And you have to do that in order to exist, in order to play, in order to act, in order to do all these things. And again, I don't know if this comes back to the gender role stuff, but I don't know how there has to be like, I don't know how we solve that. I don't know how we get around that.
I mean, I think unfortunately people are going to learn the hard way.
Right.
There's been so many people now that have had like gender reassignment, for example. And I would like to point out there are only 2 different gender reassignments.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Because there's only 2 genders. You can either become male or female. You don't go in for surgery and say, make me transgender.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think what's going to happen, a lot of young people are having the reassignment, and a lot of young people are having the reassignment and then realizing that didn't fix any problem, and it gave them more problems.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see it in the wellness of people. Because the more we remove structures and we remove boundaries without building something better over the top of it, you can't have the human experience. And it all goes back to being here and having a human experience. You can live in the clouds and you can live in your head and you can come up with the most incredible conscious thoughts. But until you can make it real and you can touch it and put a label on it, it's not real. It's just a thought. Yeah. It's like we could talk all the time about, we should do a podcast. We should have a chat on a podcast. Until we actually sit here, put the microphone on the table and press record, it's just, it's nothing. And that's where I think people are getting confused, because that's where depression comes in, because you're just living outside of your body and outside of your experience. Yeah. So we need the label. We need we're going to put the microphone on the table. And put the phone in the, you know what I mean? We need that. We need that. Otherwise, we'd just be 2 people sat here having a conversation.
We could just think about it.
We could just think about it.
We could look into each other's eyes and just be like, it's a great conversation. Thanks for that. Yeah, thanks.
But the whole part of the human experience is the deliciousness of actually doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of being human. That is like gods envy humans. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I do. I've heard this.
Yeah, they actually drink the sweat. Do you know they drink the sweat of humans?
I've heard these.
Incredible. I fucking love this story. Yeah. But because they admire the human ability to be, to live, to create, this is one of the most beautiful things you can do in the world. Like otherwise you're stuck as nothing, because you're everything and nothing at the same time. You're potential. You can do whatever you want. And so, I think it's really important, because all of us have this potential, have this energy within us, right? And we can feel like, what do I want to do with it? It's like, we need guides, we need mentors, we need people to be like, show us, here's the direction, here's how you can do this, here's what you can become if you truly accept who you are and have a grasp on the world, right? And all this stuff. Like, I'm not really pro the whole gender thing. I think really what it is, right, is coming back to who you are. And you're not your gender. You're not a wife. You're not a dad. You're not. You are. But deeper, like, than all these things, you are like the very essence and creation of the world, right? And when you know that, you accept that, you have that spirit, you're in spirit now. You don't need to have anything else, right? Because you remember who you are. That's it. And so now when you act in the world, like, you're not judging people. You're not this. You understand that actually, no, we're all connected. We're all this thing. We're all divine. We're all this source. And so then, like, these conversations about this stuff kind of slip away. It doesn't become important. And like, you don't feel like you're not male or female, because you're not. you actually aren't. And that's why you feel stressed out, because you think you're male or female, but you're actually something greater than that. But you are physically, right? And so it's just about acceptance. Okay, physically I'm this, but I don't even attach myself to that. I don't actually think like, okay, I might have these tendencies and these like reactions to be more masculine and to do all these sort of things, but that's not who I am. And I don't look at you and be like, oh, no, you're a female, you're different to who I am. I look at you and I'm like, okay, actually, no, she's spirit, she's God, she's who I am as well. And so in that way, there's no resistance and there's no lack of acceptance when you come and encounter people. And what I really want to strive for is that unconditional love, which is the feminine, which is that place of creation. Because think about like, why would anything actually come to life? And how would you exist? Is only because there's unconditional love. If there were conditions on creation, then certain things wouldn't exist and certain things couldn't be created. You couldn't have this opinion, you couldn't do this thing. So every thought you have, by the way, I think when this comes to shame was a big topic I had with my cousin. Was like there are a lot of people that have the same thoughts that you are having, right? And some people feel shame around them, like, oh, I can't be having these thoughts. Yeah, I shouldn't be saying this. But the fact is, you are, and the fact is, I'm human, you're human. You're probably having the same things. For me, it was about discovering like, what actually am I? Who am I spiritually first? Right? Doesn't matter about what everything else is. Who am I spiritually? And what are my desires? And then how can I be of service to the world? Something greater than me. I'm not even thinking about myself, like whatever else happens out there, because I'm of service to something higher.
Yeah.
And I think that is hopefully an antidote to all these sort of things. But
yeah, it's making life not about you.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what you.
Exactly. It takes away a lot of
takes away of the shame.
Yeah, because like it's not about me; it's about this person. And if someone contacts me and is upset or depressed or they need help, I'm like, go and make your day about someone else today. You'll immediately feel better.
Yeah. Well said. Well, thank you for jumping on.
Thank you for having me.
It's so good. So, did you maybe want to tell people where they could find you, and maybe talk a bit more about your work quickly? You have a retreat coming up.
I do.
You have a course as well online. So maybe wrap it up and tell us what you do with those things, where people can find you.
Yeah, so I've got a retreat in Bali that's for women only. So that's in September. So people can find that on my website, which is Reigniting Women. All my socials are Reigniting Women. And I've got online courses, there's a lot of regression work on the womb and past lives that we store in the womb, childhood stuff we store in the womb. So it's a chance to clear all that out. So all my online courses, I've got advanced ones, I've got mini ones, people can find those. And I've got quite a few like online events, like workshops and classes coming up. Those are all on my website as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit more about your actual course and what's the course about? What's the outcomes? I come in, I'm a female looking for guidance. So what are the stages of that? What am I looking? Who am I when I walk in, and who am I when I walk away?
You walk in feeling stressed, burnt out, confused, lost. You leave feeling like you know who you are, and that everything you've desired your whole life as a woman is actually allowed to be desired.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's how I wrap that up, because I give in my courses, looking at the womb, connecting to the thyroid, connecting to past life trauma, like the witch wound, for example. That shuts the healer wound is that witch energy. So we go in, we clear all that, and suddenly you realize that your desire to have a partner is acceptable. Your desire to be taken care of is acceptable. Your desire to surrender to life and be fluid is acceptable. Because a lot of women think, a great example is, I really would love to be in a relationship, but I don't need a man, but I'd like one. I'm like, well, I need one.
Do you think there's shame?
100%.
And so the women are feeling shame around that? Those thoughts?
Yeah, they feel ashamed for needing a partner because they've been taught you need to be independent and you have everything that you need inside of yourself. Yeah. Which is only half true. Because yes, you do, but you need to have the physical experience. You need the physical mirror in front of you. You can be complete. You have to be. So do you. You have to be complete within yourself. But unless you've got a partner then mirroring back to you how you feel about you, like, I love me, but I want my partner to mirror that back to me. So it's the physical experience. So we need the inner union and then the outer union.
Yeah.
So, that's what they get through going through the courses. It's like, so I'm allowed to need a man. I'm allowed to want a man to provide and protect me. So I'm not jealous and insecure. I'm just with a man that is leaking his energy everywhere, telling me I'm insecure. That's a big one. women saying, oh, I think I'm insecure. You know, he says that he's not cheating on me, or what he's doing by looking at every woman that walks by and gawking at every woman that walks by is okay. They think that they're jealous and insecure and they need to work on themselves. No, you're with a man that's got a leaky container, and you can't feel safe with a man like that. So all these things that women are feeling that they think is wrong with them, they discover through all my courses that it's actually right.
Yeah.
So it gives them permission to be who they are, which is a very gentle way of living.
Yeah.
It softens women when they go, oh, so it's okay to feel like that. That makes sense.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
So good.